over the blue line. Leave it there. There's a shot by Furry. That's just going to miss for the Mavericks. Don't miss with the backhander. And they'll score on the side of the net. Minnesota State will pick up the goal. Akito Hirose.
From BLC Studios in Mankato, Minnesota, this is the Maverick Hockey Live Podcast, presented by Dunkin. With your host, Shane Frederick.
This is the Maverick Hockey Live Podcast, presented by Dunkin. My name is Shane Frederick. I'm your host, and joining me today is Minnesota State junior forward Josh Groll. How are you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Minnesota State has come off a sweep and a 5-point weekend against Lake Superior State at home, a 3-2 overtime victory on Friday, and a 3-1 victory on Saturday. That's 6 wins in a row to start the new year. Josh, how do you feel about the way you guys are playing right now over the last 3 weekends?
Feeling really good. I think the guys are starting to get a little chemistry going. Got a lot of confidence, and I think our senior forwards and our older guys are starting to take charge and kind of lead the reins here. So I think everyone's buying in, and we're playing pretty good hockey. I mean, it wasn't a perfect weekend. Obviously, we went to overtime on Friday, but lots to improve, and we're heading the right direction.
You know, one of the things, going into obviously the holiday break was that you had lost 4 games in a row at home, and people were wondering, how this team could get back on track post New Year. What was it like to win at home? I mean, to get that overtime win on Friday must have been a little bit of a feeling of relief or excitement, or just what was going through your guys' minds after losing a few games?
Yeah, I thought we kind of went away from our MSU culture the 2 weekends before break there, and we weren't as consistent as hard at home, which we usually are, and we were letting our fans down a little bit. So I think we had a little edge this weekend, especially feeling good after ASU and the 3 road wins or weekends. And I think that was a big part of it for us, was just playing for our fans and for everyone there supporting us. So it was a really good feeling when Hirose Keto finished that one on Friday, and then we got a dog pile in behind the net.
Yeah, and he had a great weekend. He had 4 points, a goal and an assist each night, and was the defenseman of the week in the CCHA. Just a guy who's had a really good career here, but plays with a D partner in Jake Livingstone, who's probably gotten a lot more accolades than he has. But certainly Akito is a guy who you guys rely on a lot.
Yeah, he's been very consistent all year. He's been playing really good hockey the last couple weekends, and I mean, obviously he's good in the first half of the year, but he's been even better now, and we've needed him more than ever. So it's really good timing for us.
And one of the things another one of your teammates, David Cilia, said was the style of game this weekend against the Lakers was pretty similar to that against Bemidji State and a couple weeks earlier against Ferris State. You didn't win those games, but you found a way to win the games this weekend. Did you feel that way a little bit, that edge that you just mentioned earlier, and maybe finding your identity a little bit kind of came to the forefront?
Yeah, I thought everyone started to buy in from the top of the lineup to the bottom. I think that was the biggest thing, was just getting everyone on the same board and sticking to it throughout the entire game. I think that was the biggest thing, was getting that part of our culture going and getting everyone on the same bus. But I thought we did really good this weekend. They defended pretty hard. They're a big team. They had Big D, so finding a way to get through them and score on their goalie, Langenegger. He had a really good weekend as well, so it was good to find a way to get past them and earn those wins Friday and Saturday. So I think we really needed that, especially at home. Yeah,
I know they're at the bottom of the standings, but watching them play against you guys, they just did not give up a lot of ice to you guys. Just seemed like they were all over you. I don't know if you felt that way trying to make plays in the offensive zone. I know Coach talked about you guys trying to, find ways to get to that harder ice around the net, but they did a pretty good job of trying to keep you out of there.
Yeah, they did a really good job at packing the house in, and they had 5 guys on a die inside their D zone, and it made it really hard to penetrate the house. But we just tried to try different things, got the puck high, got shots from the point, like Akito even, who was in the play and got one backdoor in front of the net. Like, you never know. We tried everything we could, and it ended up working out, especially on a team who plays hard like they do.
Great weekend, and now you'll go back on the road this week to Ferris State and probably have a little bit of revenge on your minds for them beating you here twice. But I want to go backwards actually to the weekend before you guys go down to Arizona State. You had a really good weekend down there, a 4-point weekend against the Sun Devils, and two really good games for you guys where you scored 10 goals. That must have felt between that and the weekend before that at Northern Michigan that must be really maybe where you guys were really finding your game a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're just trying to find the hot wave and get some momentum, because the biggest thing, especially with the younger group this year, is trying to find some confidence and some poise through it so that we can just get to our game and stick to it and not worry so much about the extra stuff. And I think ASU, there was a lot of extracurriculars that could have been in the way, but I thought the guys really bared down and we stuck to business and we got our job done, and we played really well that weekend, which was nice.
What went well for you that weekend? Why, showing up on the scoreboard the way you did?
I think I just tried to flush it all. I mean, it was nice having my parents there,
Sure.
being close to home and everything, and having so many supporters there was really cool. But being able to play with Furry and Sandelin that weekend helped a lot, because those guys are really good players.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought our chemistry clicked really well on Saturday. But just kind of playing hard and trying to get that MSU identity, playing Maverick hockey where it's hard, we're in your face, and we're there all night. I think that's kind of what made that game happen and what helped me be successful.
Well, congratulations on that weekend. And you mentioned playing close to home. For everyone listening, Josh is a native of lovely San Diego, California. I got a chance to go there twice last year, and it is a lovely place to be. Talk about growing up there. How did you get involved in hockey, and how does a kid from San Diego end up playing Division I hockey?
Yeah, it was a little weird of a journey, but it all ended up working out. I mean, the culture there is a lot different when it comes to hockey. It's a lot more relaxed. There's not as many opportunities or teams to go to, but my dad grew up playing in New York. So He got me into the game at a young age. I started playing travel hockey around 7 or 8. And then from there, the love kind of just grew. I ended up playing in California until I was 16, and then moved out to Chicago and went from there. Been in the Midwest since.
Playing a lot of junior hockey from that point.
Yep. Bouncing around every year.
Were you a roller hockey player? I know a lot of guys from California and the sunnier areas maybe started off with some roller hockey, and I've talked to some of the Florida guys about that as well. Is that something that you did?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people from California even start out playing roller hockey instead of ice, but I started out with ice because my dad played in New York, but I ended up playing roller for a long time, played high school and everything. And it was a really good aspect to kind of help me have fun with the game and really enjoy it.
How many rinks are there in San Diego?
Growing up, I think there was 4 in the entirety of San Diego, 3 and then 4 once I was a little older.
Okay.
But I think there's 6 or 7 now.
Okay.
So it's starting to grow, which is nice. Get the game a little more exposure out there.
And I believe there was a Division I college team there in the 80s.
Was there?
There was, yeah.
I'm not even aware of that. Too much before my time.
Yeah, it's a little before your time, and I got to remember the exact name of it, and people are probably going to grill me on the podcast for not remembering the name. I keep wanting to say it American International, but that's a team out east, but it's something like that. There's a college there called something along those lines. So
that'd be cool if we can get some more teams out there like ASU. That'd be cool in the future.
Yeah, I mean, and Northern Arizona had a team at the time, and that team in Southern California, and there was a time where it kind of grew a little bit there. And I think if you go back to the 1930s, pre-World War II, I think UCLA and USC had Division I teams. So.
Yeah, they even have some pretty big club teams who get going. Like I know University of Arizona is starting to push towards a D1 team, as well as University of Nevada, Las Vegas. So.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, kind of grow the game towards sort of thing. So, but obviously good to have you here in Minnesota.
Yeah, a little different weather and everything, but it's good to be out here in Mankato.
So let's talk a little bit more about your history. So after junior hockey, you actually went to the University of Michigan for a year. And then after you played a couple games, I believe, and then opted to transfer to Minnesota State. Can you talk about that journey a little bit? How'd you end up in Michigan, and what was the decision to come to Mankato like?
Yeah, I made the decision to commit to Michigan at a pretty young age. I was only 16, so it was a little bit of a pubescent kind of decision where I wasn't 100% sure about how I'd fit in and all that aspect. So I was kind of just thinking off of the hockey side of it. And I think that once I got there, I realized that the balance of how the school and the culture worked wasn't as good for me. And I thought going somewhere like here in Mankato where it's more of a small town feel, I feel like I know people more. It's not as much as just seeing a face and forgetting it. I know everybody, like our supporters, our fans, friends of Maverick Hockey. I think that part of it was really big for me, having that community feel. And then just being somewhere where I fit in style-wise. I know Mankato, we play a little heavier hockey, a little more intense, and I think that fit my style a lot better. So I ended up deciding to come here, and it's worked out very well for me.
Was it a tough decision at the time? I mean, did you feel like you had kind of made a tough decision right away when you were in Ann Arbor, or was there something along the lines of anything that happened that season that made you think like I really going to have to do something different?
At first it was a tough decision. I mean, I never want to quit on anything or change scenery and feel like I give up on the people where I was. But at the end of the day, I needed to do what was best for me and where I thought I'd fit in more and where I could provide more and be appreciated more. And I figured out that Mankato was a place like that for me, and it's worked out very well. It's
a tough call too, because Michigan was kind of obviously a team on the rise. They've had some pretty good seasons the last couple of years. So, I mean, just being part of a program and then, you jump over to another program that's also, doing really well. So obviously you had a pretty good option to come here, but just what else do you see in the difference? I mean, is it just this just fits a little bit better for you personally and personality wise, school wise too?
Yeah, definitely school wise and personality. I feel like even with just our team, not as much community wise, it feels more like a family where each guy, on a personal level, the coaches on a personal level, and it feels less like a business and more like a community or a family, like I said. And I think that part really makes it that much better for me, because every day, I mean, you're battling, you're going to the rink, you're trying to put your work in, and being able to look forward to that and the people you get to spend your time with and be around at the rink makes it a lot better and a lot easier. And I think that's really attributed to my decision.
Did you feel that comfort right away when you arrived here?
Yeah, even before I arrived, going through the portal process with transferring, talking to Coach Hasty and Coach Nodder, and at the time Coach Bluey before he ended up leaving, and Coach Pauly coming in. I think that was the biggest thing, was just seeing how they handled everything, their professionalism and their down-to-earth outlook on hockey, and how they wanted to get to know me as a person more than just as a player. And that part of it really sold it for me and made me want to come here to Mankato.
I have to ask you this, and it's something I've wanted to ask you about for a really long time, and you probably know what's coming, but I think everybody was excited to interview you a little less than a year ago, when it seemed, when everyone thought you scored the game-winning goal in the Mason Cup championship game in overtime against Bemidji State. And of course, as everyone knows, an hour later, everyone is back on the ice to finish that game, which you guys still won. But what was that moment like for you personally? I mean, you thought you had won it. I don't know how soon afterwards. Well, I'll have to ask you, first of all, just tell me a little bit about, what's going through your head at the time, and how long after you scored did you realize that you didn't actually score, or did you know right away and kept it quiet?
I did not know right away. I'll say that off the bat, but be honest, it feels like so long ago at this point.
Sure.
But it was all really cool. I mean, in the moment, it was awesome to just feel like I scored at the end of the game and then get dogpiled by everybody, and the entire arena erupted. I think it was the loudest I've ever heard the Civic Center. But I mean, it took me a little bit to find out, but I kind of knew before we even got off the ice, because they had some media guys on the ice from Everything College Hockey. And one of them, right before we got off, goes, "Yeah, the puck didn't go in the net. It went under." And I kind of knew at that point that there was a pretty good chance it was going to get called back and everything, even though everyone got off, because how big a game it was and how much it meant to not just us, but Bemidji as well. So I had a pretty good feeling that there was a chance it'd come back. And I mean, as bittersweet as it was always not that bad in the end, because Jack McNeely ended up scoring, and he was one of our super seniors, and he was a guy who everybody looked up to and wanted to succeed. And it was really cool to just see him score and be able to celebrate with him like that. I had my moment and I got to enjoy it. So that part of it was cool.
You're the answer to a trivia question is what you're going to end up being.
Yeah, exactly. The forgotten number.
That's right. Well, I remember interviewing Jack in the press conference and asking him about you and him, and Jack and it was cool to see him last weekend in Mankato doing the TV broadcast for your games against Lake Superior State. But he was so gracious, and he felt bad for you. He said, that he ended up like being the guy on the dais doing the interviews when you had an opportunity, because you had kind of an unsung season. First year on the team, working hard. You had 12 points and 4 goals, and this would have been your 5th goal, and made a great move, and it was a great play, and everything about it looked awesome until they really broke down the Zapruder film of the goal. But it was just and as and you've as a teammate of Jack's, that he's that kind of guy, right? That he'd probably rather have you had won it instead of him going back up there. But nice moment for him too.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing too, is just how selfless Jack was about it, which made it that much tougher, because he kept trying to give me the MVP trophy.
Oh, really?
Because it was kind of like a debate for who should have it. He kept arguing with me, but I couldn't take it, especially because it was his last year and everything. I wanted him to have something to remember it by. And I mean, I'll never forget that moment, so I don't need anything to remind me or anything like that.
That's pretty awesome that he, I did not know that he tried to give that to you.
Yeah, we argued for a while, but eventually I won, thankfully.
Somebody should have cut it in half.
That would have been interesting. It was glass though, so it might have shattered.
Yeah, well, maybe, Scotty Rideout, your equipment manager, would have found a way to do that. Sure.
Yeah. That'd be funny.
Well, that's just the crazy thing about that moment. I mean, after you score, you get dogpiled, you do the handshake line, they give you the hats, they give you the trophy, they announce the 3 stars, they give you the MVP, they it's over. And then obviously, after however much long, suddenly they're telling you guys to get back out on the ice. That in itself, whether you scored the goal or not, had to be just the strangest feeling that a team could have, right?
Yeah, I think the strangest feeling too is just sitting in the locker room after and like looking around like, so are we doing this again? Like, what's gonna happen? And then you got half the guys got half their gear off. Some of them are on bikes with their shin guards and pants still on. Like, it was just an interesting scene. You got guys just still trying to stretch, but that was the thing, was just like how awkward it was trying to handle that long break before playing again, and then only playing for 2 minutes and ending. So I think that was the weirdest part.
How many shifts did you get in overtime when you came back on the ice? Do you recall?
I think just one.
Yeah.
I remember it because I had a backhand chance that Scholl ended up gloving.
Yeah.
And I was kind of upset.
You really wanted to win it again.
Yeah, I wanted the second one.
That would have been a good story too, if it would have been the same guy.
Yeah, it would have been cool, but I like how it ended.
Yeah. It was a good ending. And then of course you guys go on to on a nice roll in the NCAA tournament and get to the national championship game. And obviously you would have liked to have won it, but certainly a season you probably won't forget, huh?
No, never. It was definitely one full of memories, especially with the outdoor game, Boston, Albany, everything, and the CCHA playoffs like we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean I warned you I might do this before we started the podcast, that I sometimes jump around and I go backwards when things pop up. But you just mentioned the outdoor game too, and it's always fun to talk to the Minnesota guys about that. But it's also fun to talk to the guys from the not so traditional hockey states about that. What was that like for you as a California kid, Southern California kid, to experience not only hockey day in general and the outdoor game, but obviously the conditions that night, which I think made it truly a magical evening. I
think everything before the game for me was very not perfect, as you could say, because I mean, not skating in an outdoor rink more than twice in my entire life before that made our practice the day before super weird. We had like 10-degree winds blowing in our face and stuff like that, and I couldn't feel anything. I think that part of it was the weirdest. And then nobody knows this, but before the game started on the actual hockey day, my blade and my toque actually fell out of my skate before warm-ups when I was stepping out. And I ended up falling on my butt 3 times trying to get up. And I wasn't able to warm up that day because there's snow that had gone in between my skate and my toque, and I couldn't put it back in. So like you said before, Scotty Ridout had to mess with it and put an entire new toque in my skate before the first period started. And I got about 30 seconds of warm-ups with my old skates on. And then the actual game obviously was really cool, and we had all the snow, which made it kind of hard to play through. But before the game was the most eventful for me, which is kind of weird. And it was kind of funny to remember, because I remember when I fell the first time, when my blade fell out, I could hear all 10,000 fans go, ooh.
I think I remember
heard it
that
rattle
now.
through the entire stadium, and I was just like, get me off the ice, please. But that's the biggest thing I remember. But playing was really cool, and then being on Cilier's line was really awesome, because he had the hat trick and everything, and that was cool to celebrate with him.
Yeah, what a moment for him and for that team, for the team. Yeah, I mean that whole season was certainly just full of events throughout. And this season's been different, right? I mean, it's been a little bit more challenging. It's a different team. Guys, I assume, including yourself, are playing a little bit different roles, and that happens, as teams progress year to year. What's that been like for you, going through those different ups and downs and going through a little bit different, expectations and adversities and things like that?
I mean, it was definitely challenging at first, getting a lot more thrown on my plate, I'd say, and having more expected of me. I think that was the hardest part mentally, and trying to figure out how I could provide more for the team and really become what was needed. And I think that helped a lot, struggling through it in the beginning of the year, because I learned a lot about myself and who I am as a person and a hockey player, and what it takes for me to be successful and be able to succeed in those different roles, compared to last year being on the fourth line and kind of being more of a grinder role than I am this year. And I think that part of it's helped me a lot, because I've gone through, I'd say, a lot of ups and downs that have helped me strengthen my game and myself as a person.
What do you feel your strengths are as a player? I mean, you come in on a fourth line, and there's different expectations of what the coaches want you to do, and what kind of game they want you to play, and how you want to grind things out. And some guys progress up the line chart and end up in a top six role, like you've been in the last couple of weeks. But some guys end up flourishing in those other roles, which are certainly needed as well. Where do you feel like you fit in best?
I feel like I can play any role, I'd say, on the lineup in that aspect, where I'm not someone who has to be in the top six or the bottom six. I feel like I'm someone who's smart enough who I can adapt to those different situations and learn how to play different styles or different roles. And I think that's helped me a lot to be a little more like a Swiss Army knife, where I'm used in a lot of situations like power play or PK.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd also say, like, something that makes me a good player is speed and tenacity, and then being able to shoot the puck. I'd say that's kind of what's helped me throughout my career, and being able to play any role in any kind of position.
Well, one of the things, as I was kind of going through some of your stats, you blocked 25 shots last year, which I think was the top shot blocker amongst the forwards on the team. I know there's kind of a real culture of playing that way and getting in front of pucks and that sort of thing. And certainly that aids your goalies, and certainly has aided Dryden McKay over the last several years. But is that something, playing in your own end that you appreciate just as well as doing the things you just said about, playing in the offensive zone?
Yeah. That was something I really focused after juniors, because I wasn't the best defensive player in juniors, unfortunately, because less responsibilities, less accountability. I was a little bit more offensive minded, and I didn't like to play in my D zone as much as a lot of players do. And I think that was something I really focused on after I left Lincoln and was starting to go to Michigan, was focusing on being a good defensive player and being responsible and reliable. And that was something that carried over to when I transferred, and was something that helped me be able to block shots and kind of buy into the identity that Mankato has as a hockey team. And we're a team that doesn't shy away from the selfless stuff and taking the time and the effort to eat a puck for your goalie or whoever's behind you. And I think that helped me a lot coming in, being able to focus on that defensive side and be able to play that fourth line role, where coach depends on us to shut lines down, shut top team down, and be able to sit out there and not focus as much on offense, which is okay, but be able to get our job done and help the team out how we can.
Right. And I know everybody wants to score and, wants to rack up points. And you certainly want to do that in junior hockey when you're, hoping to get noticed or hoping to, make an impression on a college team. But, sometimes that transition is hard, because when that demand comes from your coaching staff that you're going to play a 200-foot game or you're going to play in your end, especially as you ease into the game, and that's where the holes are and where they need you in a lineup. It takes a certain kind of mentality to be able to accept that role and do it. What are the ups and downs of that like as you first kind of even if you want to do it, it's something that you said maybe wasn't a strength and you're trying to get better at. How do you get better at that? Is it just practice? Is it just a mentality thing? Is it just watching film? What is it?
I'd say it's mostly mentality. I think a lot of it is just buying in. And I think that's kind of what helped me in the beginning too, is the style that Mankato has and kind of what our identity is as a team, and having that harder, more physical, kind of tenacious aspect to us as a team. That really helped me buy into that and just kind of watch other guys move. Like when I came here, I moved in with the seniors, like Julian Napravnik, Wyatt Amott, Andy Carroll, and Dryden McKay, and just watching how those guys played and how they carry themselves around the rink and on the ice kind of helped me buy into that and gave me purpose on the team. And I think that's something that really helped me kind of enjoy being a fourth line guy and helping the team defend and block shots, obviously, and carrying some kind of addition to the team without being offensive or scoring every goal. And I think that's what really helped me buy into that and really enjoy last year, is that kind of role.
Yeah. Well, Wyatt certainly was probably an influence on the shot blocking area.
Yeah, definitely.
He and I had a long talk on the podcast last season, I think, about his shot blocking and the number he had and breaking his helmet, I think, in a game. And it was
I'm sure else. You said I was number one for forwards, but I'm sure he had at least twice my blocks or maybe 3 times as many, but
it's still impressive. It's one of the things covering hockey that I always think is, it's one thing to be a goaltender. It's another one to eat a puck for your goaltender and watching guys, whether they're laying down or just getting their feet in front of it, or, I'm sure you'd prefer just to do it with your stick if you can, but anything you can do to get in front of a puck is, you guys are a lot braver than I am. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, especially in college, you get the cages and everything. It's a little tougher to block shots in juniors or pros with the visor on, but especially being able to help out Dryden last year and then Rance and Tracy and Miller this year. Our goal is always to have under 20 shots against or so every game. So being able to block shots always helps with that and keep our defensive game in tight.
Well, it's is for as much as you guys can sometimes dominate possession time compared to other teams, you guys still block a lot of shots as a team, which is always, I always find that to be impressive, because a lot of times when you go to the advanced stats and the metrics, it's those teams that have the puck a lot. They don't necessarily block a lot of shots, because I think that factors into some of those advanced stats and analytics. Although I'm not an expert on that in the hockey sense, but you do see that stuff kind of trickle in and try to figure out what, when you start looking at shot attempts and blocks and compared to each team, and you guys still block a lot of shots, even though you have kind of dominate the other end.
Yeah. I think that also is part of our culture, where we don't forget one side of the game compared to the other. And that's something we always kind of hold some swagger towards, where we're like, we're a defensive team. You're going to have to earn your way through us. And if you want to score, you're going through us no matter what. And I think that's something we started to buy into the last 3 or so weeks here, and it's helped us out a lot.
Yeah. And that stuff seems like it just takes some time to develop, and there was a lot of consistency over the last, 3 years. And that's something teams, have to find over time. And fortunately you didn't, as much as people said, what's going on with MSU and, they dropped down, but you guys didn't dig yourself into too big a hole. You're back up to 14th in the pairwise, I believe, and 14th overall in the opinion rankings. Not that those matter as much, and you're certainly right in the mix for another McNaughton. That's going to be a race that comes down probably to the final weekend of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it was something we had to earn, and that was reciprocal of ourselves, obviously, but that's good. I mean, we've learned a lot through it, and we've grown a lot through the last month or so and the ups and downs. And I think that's helped us a lot towards kind of buying into earning that spot back to where we used to be and where we feel like we need to be at when the season comes to an end. And obviously try to win that McNaughton Cup here towards the end of the season, but we'll see how everything
Keep
goes.
it in the building, right?
Try our best. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Josh, I really appreciate you being on the podcast this week, and best of luck to you and the Mavericks going out to Big Rapids and playing Ferris State this week.
Thank you. Appreciate for taking time.
All right. Well, that's Josh Groll. I'm Shane Frederick. This has been the Maverick Hockey Live podcast presented by Dunkin. We'll see you next week.